Right. Are we live? I have no idea. Let's just pretend we are and go from there. Close Discord. Sorry about this. I lost track of time. Video full screen. Cool. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's having a nice... Is it Wednesday today? Yes. So good evening to Hitler's Second Coming, Explore Games, Serene, Tiger Lily, Michael, Patriarch of the Sith, and Serene. I only had one chance today to watch PMQs, but thankfully the title of the stream, Hello White, and Otaku Gamer Judas, and Zebsred. It implies equality, inequality, food poverty, and climate change. Fantastic. Hello, Stargazer. And Peter Edwards. I noticed when I watched PMQs, Hello, Flamesword. The one thing I noticed... Oh, God, I'm going to yawn. That's a running trend. Last 3 streams I've started, I've yawned right at the start. Yeah. That's attractive. I noticed that in the stream, there are a number of things I just felt like I could pull them up on. Like, not just Theresa May, but also Corbyn. Things they say, comparisons they make. I swear fallacies are everywhere in this. But a number of other issues. I am surprised that the MPs didn't raise the subject of... what's it called? Oh, the Jeremy Kyle show, because they had announced today they're going to do an inquiry into reality shows and the effect it has on those who participate. That would include things like Big Brother, X Factor, Britain's Got No Talent, and so on. Good evening, have we left yet? Hope you're all well. So yes, let us dive into this tripe. Oh, I need to pull the chat up, sorry. Chat. There you go.
Questions to the Prime Minister, Mr. Alan Brown.
Number 1, Mr. Speaker.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, may I start by thanking the Mental Health Foundation for organising this year's Mental Health Awareness Week. Having good mental health is vital to us all, and that's why we're investing record levels in mental health. We want to ensure that people receive the treatment and care when they need it. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I will today be joining world leaders and internet companies for a summit in Paris on tackling terrorist use of the internet.
I hope that includes all forms of terrorism and they actually address the individual types. But I doubt it. I assume far-right extremism will be included, and I do know for a fact that Facebook is introducing a one-strike policy, courtesy of the Christchurch moron. Their new little policy is going to be to say that you do one thing wrong, one strike, you're out. The zero-tolerance policy of a dying platform desperate for relevancy. And I only just remembered that. How sad. Not that oh, God. Stupid yawn. Not that I remembered it at such an inopportune or convenient moment. Hello, Karma and Horny Hippos. Hope you're well. More that Facebook is just being pathetic, really. So at least we know something. And the fact that they only went for the far-right extremism with the one-strike policy example. That was nice. It's not like any other terrorist idiots have been seen on their site.
Alan Brown.
Oh, something I did notice was that she only referenced this one thing. You know, the one mental health awareness, which is important, not going to denigrate, and the summit. That surprises me. It's quite short.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and obviously I support Mental Health Week as well. Mr. Speaker, instead of a transplant providing my constituent Pauline Hunt an improved and extended life, Tragically, she's received a death sentence after receiving a malignant kidney. Now, Pauline rightly needs answers, and comfort this won't happen to anyone else. So rather than her having to fight the system to get these answers, will the Prime Minister make sure that the UK service, NHS Blood and Transplant Service, undertake a case review to identify why this malignancy wasn't picked up earlier and why red flags weren't identified post-operation as well?
Well, the honourable gentleman has clearly raised a very concerning case, and obviously he's given some details of that case here on the floor of the House. I will ensure that a relevant minister looks at the issue that he has raised, because obviously it is a matter of concern if somebody receives something that they believe is going to give them their life, and it is a malignant transplant, a transplant of a malignant organ, as he has said in this case. So I will ensure that the Department of Health, the relevant minister, looks at this.
Opposing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister has often spoken about how important it is to ensure that everyone gets a fair chance in life, and that, of course, includes carers. So will she join me in welcoming the award to Annette Collier that was made at Friday's Pride of Rugby Awards, run by our fabulous local radio station? Annette's a leader for rugby young carers, and her great dedication, inspiration and enthusiasm is helping youngsters in my constituency live their own lives.
The planted suck-up question. Yay. You had a malignant... Sorry, I had a malignant kidney once, hit it with a baseball bat and sorted it out. Congratulations, Graham, and good evening. I think I am very much ill-informed on the process that transplants, the process regarding transplants. And so I don't know how it managed to go so far down that line that a malignant organ was given to somebody anyway. But I'm sure it'll be very interesting to find out. Did she steal that jacket from a Tower London tour guide? I actually don't know. It's possible she just got it from her home, which may well be a cell in the Tower of London.
Well, can I thank my honourable friend for highlighting this particular issue, because we obviously recognise the importance of supporting young carers. We've published a cross-government carers action plan which is committing to improve the identification of young carers, educational opportunities and outcomes, as well as access to support and services. But I'm very happy to join my honourable friend in congratulating Annette for this award and thanking her for the amazing work she's done and continues to do to support young carers, and also to congratulate Rugby FM for identifying people in the community like Annette who are doing so much to help the lives of others.
When the Attorney General there was looking up at the ceiling, if you noticed, part of me was wondering if he was just bored out of his brains or trying desperately to keep his eyes open. Maybe the white lights above him just did enough. Hello, Globus and Teddy. Yeah. Question the real ones. Question them all.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I join the Prime Minister in acknowledging Mental Health Awareness Week, and I want to send my support to all those campaigning all across the country to raise awareness of mental health, and also a message that all of us can do something about it by reaching out and talking to people going through a mental health crisis, and also ensuring there's proper funding for our mental health services. I would also like, Mr. Speaker, to pay tribute to the former Labour MP for Birmingham All Saints, Brian Walden, who passed away this week. He was a very formidable figure in this House and a very strong political interviewer, which every politician really loved being interviewed by at the time, but they only said that afterwards. I think, Mr. Speaker, it would also be only right that the House of Commons pays tribute to a leading Hollywood icon and campaigner for animal welfare, Doris Day, who passed away this week. And I'm tempted to quote some Doris Day songs, but I won't.
No joke. I would have loved for him just to start busting out a song right now.
All right, crack away! No. I do apologise, Mr. Speaker. I've obviously started a parliamentary sing-along here. And speaking of icons, Mr. Speaker, it would be right to acknowledge that it's 40 years since the members for Huddersfield and Birkenhead were both elected to this Parliament for the first time in the 1979 election.
Jeremy Corbyn rapping would be the single greatest thing I'd ever seen in my life ever.
Mr. Speaker, in the last 2 years, 9 of the UK's richest hedge fund tycoons have donated £2.9 million to the Conservative Party.
Is that all? Considering how much those guys are worth, a few girls, I'm actually surprised it's not higher.
Is this a government for the many or in the pockets of an elite few?
That's quite a horrible question. And a nice little play on words from your own little slogan, you know, not for the many, not the Jew. I think okay, I don't mind who donates to what party. There are rules, of course, with how much people can donate to an extent. There's some regulation. All parties have donors. Even your party have wealthy donors. So, and yeah, some of them will donate because they want to influence. It's not surprising. Hello, Angel. Hope you're well. With regards to whether or not these donors, whether the party is for the few, hello, Fairy Kitten, I would say that is built on the premise that the government is influenced by those that donate to them. And I think that is a bit of a false statement to make. And Jeremy's rapping would probably be more akin to a Chuckle Brother. The living one, I think. Also, this is a waste of a question.
Can I first of all respond to some of the tributes that the Right Honourable Gentleman played? I'm sure that across the House everybody would wish to recognise the sad passing of somebody who gave many hours of entertainment through her films and career, Doris Day. I also would like to congratulate the honourable members for Huddersfield and Birkenhead on having been elected into this House 40 years and having spent 40 years in this House. I also note that 40 years ago, of course, it was the election of Margaret Thatcher in this House and the Conservative government. And
the last Prime Minister with a backbone. And good evening, Vomit Sausage.
And Margaret, and it was always said that Margaret Thatcher had indeed enjoyed being interviewed by Brian Walden. And he did indeed not only have a career in this House, but went on to have a very respected career in television journalism as a broadcaster and interviewer. But can I say to the Right Honourable Gentleman, he raises issues about fairness and about equality and those who are better off in our society. Can I just say to him that income inequality is down since 2010? As Conservatives, we want everyone to be better off, everyone to have good jobs, and everyone to have a better life. But that's always the difference between us and Labour. Labour want to bring people down, we want to raise people up.
To be honest, while I don't agree with a number of her positions, she has a point on this one. Labour's solutions would mean just increasing tax on the rich to pay for the pet projects that supposedly help the poor. Okay, well, let's talk about that. The rich have already said that they're going to leave the country. Trillions are going to vanish from this country's economy because of that. And they're not stupid. They're more than likely already speaking to their Swiss bankers and making it happen. There is no accountability when it comes to raising additional funds. So what's the point of raising additional funds if you're just doing it to then throw the money at something? Not understanding how you use it is a fundamental problem with the Labour Party, one you have yet to fully understand. Yes, the Conservatives are not great with money either, to be honest. Hello, Stephen, but at least they're not going out of their way to fuck people. I know that Labour want to make a number of policy declarations now, and we're going to address them in a moment. I did bother to look at the Office for National Statistics on the report about income inequality. It is going down. But, of course, some people want it to go down. Hello, Lynn. Some people want it to go down like that. But that is not how it works. All things like this take time, and it is utterly impossible to think there will ever be a state of existence where we are all equal, unless we are under a completely different political system entirely, which is unlikely.
Mr. Speaker, the Nobel Prize-winning economist Sir Angus Deaton,
Not to be confused with the coke-snorting, prostitute-loving former TV presenter who who got caught out quite badly in a newspaper. At least the prostitute thought he was great in bed. He got royally fucked on Have I Got News For You, and it was probably my favourite episode of all time. It's just a shame Angus Deaton couldn't take a joke. I mean, he sat there and took it, but, well, he left, didn't he? Oh well.
said the UK risks having extreme inequality levels of pay, wealth and health.
Only because of how they felt they had to be distributed differently.
Of the G7 countries, only the United States is more unequal than Britain.
You mean a country that's vastly larger than ours and spread out across a much larger place? Hard to believe unless they condensed it all into one state that they could manage it properly to the point where it would, I don't know, be equal. But let's not forget here, each individual state in the states governs itself as part of a republic. And they acquired all the statistics for this by taking the averages from each state, which, based on how some of their economies are, was always going to create a bit of a mistaken result. You would have been better getting a result from one state. We'll save you from your... We do have oil in our chip pans, Globus. Patriarch of the Sith.
Is that something the Prime Minister is proud of?
I would point out also, different countries, different situations. You cannot say, yes, but we're not better than them, and we want to be. That's not valid. Focus on our own issues instead of everyone else's, or equating ours to theirs and then saying, yeah, but we're not as good as them. No. You're just looking for a finger to point out and blame someone, you fucking idiot.
Like I say to the right honourable gentleman, that what is important, as I say, we're talking about income inequality and fairness. As I say, income inequality is down since 2010. The lowest paid had seen their wages grow the fastest since 2015. The top 1% are contributing more income tax than at any point under the last Labour government. And thanks to the Conservatives, millions of people, the lowest paid, are no longer paying any income tax at all. That's Conservatives delivering for everyone.
The Conservatives do have this a number of things over the Labour Party. They did raise the tax bar. The tax bar, when the Conservatives came into power, was around about £6,000. That's what you could earn-ish before you paid tax. Now it's £12,500. £12,500 is roughly what someone on minimum wage earns a year. Well, okay, slightly less. They earn less than that. But that means they don't pay tax. That means they are still able to keep their money. National insurance they pay, which is like £5 a week at most, really. The point is, that is actually something they have over them. But on top of that, they raised the they introduced the living wage and increased the national minimum wage. They have done these, and unfortunately, Labour didn't do that. And they did that in the face of austerity, which was absolutely astonishing, because they could have just fucked us, and we would have had to have taken it for 5 years because of what the minimum wage pays tax. Not entirely true. You have to earn a certain amount before you pay tax. Perhaps minimum wage isn't the same. I could be wrong here. Doesn't matter. Continuing. You know what I mean? Thank you for pointing out, though.
Mr. Speaker, real wages are lower than they were 10 years ago.
Yes, the real wage argument of where the wages should be with relation to inflation. Right. Well, unfortunately for us, They had to stagnate because of what happened, therefore the bar had to be moved. It doesn't stay on that constant going up trajectory. Economy based on endless growth is unsustainable. A lesson we had to learn with the economic crash.
And how can it be fair that we live in a society where the average chief executive of a FTSE 100 company now earns 145 times the annual average salary in this country?
Right. This bugged me to no end. Somebody in charge of a FTSE 100 company, comparing that person with all the responsibility of a company that is actually managed and dealt with on the stock market. Trades on the stock market. The guy's person is in charge of it. Okay. With some schmo. Let's go with some average manager, shelf stacker. I would say, with the pressures, the stresses, and the type and nature of job that person is doing, the chief executive of the FTSE 100 company, they deserve what they get. It is, after all, a capitalist thing with the whole stock market. Simply put, they earn more. Actually, in the chat, it says it there. They earn more because they are worth more. It is that simple. Do you want them to trade places, perhaps? Because I have a strange feeling things would get very, very bad very, very fast. They are the people where the buck stops. They're the people that have to appease the shareholders. They are the people that have to ensure that profits continue to roll in so they can pay the shareholders, pay the staff, and increase the size of the business. Isn't that, after all, the game? It's like Disney. While they trade, they appease the shareholders. They also want to continue expanding until we become Planet Disney. Anyway, it's a terrible comparison because you're basing it on a very false assumption that the pressures of one job is the same as the pressures of the other job. The worth of one job is the same as the worth of another job. It is not. You are utterly deluded.
And some of the lowest rates of pay are amongst young workers.
Shit, here we go.
That's why at the weekend I announced that the next Labour government will...
Right. This is a Labour policy, everyone. I'm just going to rewind it ever so slightly. This is a policy they want to introduce. And I disagree with it, and I'll show you why in a minute.
Are amongst young workers. That's why at the weekend I announced that the next Labour government will abolish the youth rates. Because, quite simply, if you're old enough to do the job, you're old enough to be paid the wage to do the job.
Right. So tell me this, right? Companies are not given incentives to hire young people if everyone is earned the same. Paid the same, sorry. They're not given an incentive to take on that person, which is why minimum wages exist for younger people. It would create mass young youth unemployment. It would create problems because no one's going to want someone inexperienced if they know they can just hire someone with the experience and pay them the exact same amount of money. They hire the youth, not because they're able to work so they should earn the same, but because they're able to hire them for a lower rate. Let's not forget here, people under the age of 18 in this country don't really pay a whole lot towards society in the first place. So are you basing this on people at the age of 18? Because I don't recall seeing that in your policy in the first place. Quite frankly, if you go down this path, the only option left to the youth won't be to get jobs because they won't be able to get a job. It'll be instead to go down the path of apprenticeships and academia because they'll be the only avenues they'll get. But let's not forget here, universities have a finite number of spaces, and I'm sure that you would be able to, or would not want to invest the vast amounts of money you would have to pump into apprenticeships just to get people into placements. And you wouldn't be able to guarantee those jobs either, because let's face it, no one's going to want to keep them on. Just because they trained them doesn't mean they want them. In short, I support the minimum wages that exist for younger people because that incentivizes companies to give them a chance. If you want to force youth people or do some kind of representation of, well, We've got representation with regards to gender, with regards to race. Well, now we need age groups. Because nothing screams equality more than having not only 16 to 25-year-olds working in Sports Direct, but someone aged 60 to 65 as well. We need that representation. And all should earn the same because they should. I don't think Sports Direct are going to hire those people, by the way. They're more likely to take on the 60-year-olds, to be honest. Because chances are they at least have the experience. And what are they going to pick? Inexperience for the same money as someone with experience. Tough choice.
Does the Prime Minister agree with that principle?
I say to the right honourable gentleman that the impact of the policy he has announced was actually that it will cost young people jobs. And that's not just...
She is quite right. It will cost people jobs. And that is a huge mistake on Corbyn's part. Number one, can't be the only one who pictured Disney making their own Death Star just so that when they look at the Earth, it looks like Mickey Mouse's face, Earth, the face, the moon, Death Star. Yeah, you're quite right. I like that.
That's not just...
Space cowboys are gay.
That's not just what I'm saying. The director of the IFS said the policy would end up having quite a negative effect on young people. But we...
Yes, but you know why he came up with this policy, don't you? Do you know why the late 60s man who's trying to appeal to the youth came up with the policy? Have I given it away yet? Because he wants their vote. He wants the votes of the predominantly idealistic youth. The same who are typically drawn to more socialist policies. Because they see things from a more idealised lens. So they're going to think, oh, this is perfect, it works. And then when he gets into government, which he will, he's going to be the next Prime Minister. Shit. He won't be able to enact it because he'll realise, bollocks, it's not going to work.
don't need to rely on quotes to know about what would happen to young people under a policy like that. We just look at the record that the last Labour government had on youth employment.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
Under the last Labour government, youth unemployment rose by 44%.
Dawn Butler on the left there shook her head. It did. So, stop deluding yourself. I do apologise for the bottle sound there.
Under the Conservatives in government, youth unemployment has fallen by 50%.
Doesn't take into account inflation, but yeah, sure.
I seem to recall, Mr. Speaker, it was the Conservative Party that opposed the national minimum wage in 1997.
Yeah, because at the time it was a stupid idea. Don't regret it now, though.
I seem to recall it was the Conservative Party that predicted millions of jobs would be lost because we wanted decent pay for people.
But it isn't the Conservative Party who have said this would be bad for youth employment. It is from the... Dear God, it's from the IFS. You weren't paying attention, were you? It wasn't the Conservatives that predicted it this time. Idiot.
But why, Mr. Speaker, does this government continue to punish our young people?
Because they're stupid. Because they're morons. Because they're predictably stupid. Because they're predictably morons. Do I need to say it in a more eloquent way? I'm not trying to be arrogant here, but honestly, I've watched those protests. They're getting embarrassing now. I have a friend coming to the UK at some point in the near future. I might make it a point to, if we can coordinate the time just right, take him to see one of these shitty little protests by these young people. Seriously. It's embarrassing now. And the worst part is, I remember being just as bad as them. But from a more, I'll tag along, but I'm not going to say shit. I'm just going to watch. Yeah, it does. It's weird that Parliament does sound like a high school lunchroom. It's quite embarrassing. I'm just waiting for them to fold away the tables, which is what we used to do in my lunch hall back at school.
Since 2010, The Conservative Party with the Liberal Democrat accomplices have trebled tuition fees.
Yeah, that was funny. Okay, so yesterday on Twitter, I put out a poll. The poll was, would you like me to make public the very first video I ever uploaded to YouTube on my Omegon channel? Now, it doesn't exist on the Omegon channel anymore. So I have it archived on a channel called The Beta. It's an archive channel. I just bury all my videos there. And yes, the reason I was apprehensive about this was because the audio is horrific. You can hear nose breathing. That's how bad it is. And during it, I listened back to earlier and I noticed I was talking about tuition fees. How when I was in university in 2010 and if I didn't vote, I watched the election and I was like, I just don't see a party here I can really agree with. And Lib Dems were the only one that I thought, perhaps, with the tuition fee thing, I could agree with. But then they went and goofed, didn't they? They joined a coalition and increased the tax bar. But because of austerity, the government had to find money, so they stopped subsidising universities and instead gave them permission to raise tuition up to $9,000. Which is what they did, because universities could. The purpose of university is not to teach, it is to make money. And that's exactly what they did. And I'm very sorry to all those people who got hurt by it. I did not support it. And I even said so in that very video, where I also complained a considerable amount about the purple flags everywhere in, well, my town, because it's a Eurosceptic area, okay? In any case, the tuition fees thing, I understood why it happened, though. Because the government could not at the time, afford to shell out the money to universities to keep tuition fees down. They couldn't do it. Why? Because of the fuckheads on your benches. A number of whom aren't there anymore because they lost their jobs. They walked away. They fucked up, goofed, and then went and decided, I'll go make money with other companies. Can you imagine applying for a job as being the former Prime Minister of this country? Like Gordon Brown. Twats on your benches destroyed our economy to the point where the government opposite, that is so unpopular, they had to make the decisions that included affecting some very unlucky people, including a number of people in my chat. You don't deserve to pay the tuition you're paying. That's not fair. You don't deserve to lose the maintenance grants that I had access to. That's not fair. But I know why you lost them. And it's not because the Lib Dems and Tories conspired against you. It's because the fucksticks on those benches fucked this country's economy. So quite frankly, you don't have a leg to stand on when it comes to morally grandstanding on behalf of those, the youth in this instance, who you fucked in the first place. You should be ashamed of yourself. Maybe you, Jeremy Corbyn, opposed it, but you didn't do a good enough job, did you?
Abolish the educational maintenance allowance and cut child benefit. And while wages remain low...
The child benefit thing is contentious. They made it more means assessed. That's what they did.
Lower than a decade ago, and housing costs have soared, more and more food banks are opening up in Britain.
Yep. I actually don't mind that. It shows just how charitable we as a people are, that we're still willing to donate to help as many people that are suffering and struggling. And yet again, they are a consequence of somebody else's own excess. Just think, if you carried on, I'm sure Slanesh should have been born.
In Great Yarmouth, one has just been opened for pupils at a school. And last week, the Department of Business established a food bank for its own staff in the building there on Victoria Street. Can the Prime Minister tell us what is going wrong in modern Britain that a government office in the centre of London has a food bank for some of its very low-paid staff to get something to eat?
You don't suppose it's because actually they're not low-paid at all. It's just that living in London is virtually impossible. Although I will say that the fact that that is the case is absolutely tragic. And good evening, Eden. And yes, food banks are run by volunteers.
Can I say to the right honourable gentleman, as he knows, I think that the best way to ensure that people have a good income and a stable income for their families is to ensure that they're in work. And this is the fourth question he's asked me. The fourth question he's asked me, and in none of his questions so far has he welcomed the fact that employment is at record levels and unemployment...
He won't, because that means he can then complain about in-work poverty, which I accept is a thing. I get it. I really do. However, that is the first step towards improving their lives. Your solution, Mr. Corbyn's, would be to take them out of those jobs and just say live on benefits, which is what Labour did when they were last in power, so don't be surprised if you do it again. Let's see. Corbyn's obsessed with food banks. You know, I'm surprised he doesn't donate his own jam and chutney to it.
Employment is down at a record low. And the way the right honourable gentleman talks, you would think that inequality started in 2010. But who was it who...
Did you hear that? Oh, it did. Are you kidding me? Are you telling me there was no such thing as inequality beforehand? Wow, you really are deluded, whoever it was. Don't care about the middle class are taking over poor areas in London. Yeah, okay, they don't care. And I'm glad... Congratulations, Eden, on finishing your first year at university. And you missed absolutely nothing of importance, I promise you that.
Said, oh, one of the Labour backbenchers shouts from a sedentary position. It did. Who was it who said of the last Labour government, they ensured that the gap between the richest and the poorest in our society became very much bigger? Not my words, the words of the right honourable gentleman attacking his own Labour government.
That is probably one of the worst the worst slams on him ever. Okay, best slam on him. And you owe no apology for moaning at all. Perfectly faded delusions. You really don't have to apologise for that. Hello, memes of destruction. We're just doing PMQs. As far as I'm concerned, he called out his own party, and now his own words have come back to bite him on the ass.
Mr. Speaker, my question was about food banks in a government office which seems to me...
Order! I'm very, very, very worried about you, Mr. Spencer. You used to be such a calm and measured fellow. You're now behaving in an extraordinarily eccentric manner, almost delinquent. Calm yourself, young man, and your condition will improve. Jeremy Corbyn.
Mr. Speaker, my question was about a food bank in a government ministry, which seems to me to suggest that it's in-work poverty that is the problem in Britain.
Solve it. I know how. Remove the in-work. Then you just have the poverty. We fix that by increasing benefits and no one has to work, which is actually an idea you have. Your solution to a lot of things is to hand out benefits to everyone. Everyone gets a state wage. How interesting. How do you pay for that, Jeremy?
The Trussell Trust handed out 1.6 million food parcels last year, 500,000 of which went to children. And there's a new report out today from the End Child Poverty Coalition, which shows that child poverty has risen by 500,000 and is becoming the new norm in this country.
Yeah, this is where a number of it gets a bit murky. Yes, there is a certain number of... So, the numbers he's arguing from don't account for those who are having more children, so it's not really a case of like more families or anything. It's just it's from people who are already in poverty to begin with, who are then continuing to have more children. It gets a bit murky.
The End Child Poverty Coalition called on ministers to restore the link between inflation and social security. Will the Prime Minister do that to try and reduce the disgraceful levels of child poverty in this country?
Absolutely. right honourable gentleman talks about helping those who are low paid. It is this government, it is a Conservative government that introduced the national living wage. And what do we see? What do we see? That someone under Labour, someone working full-time on national minimum wage, would have taken home £9,200 a year. Now they take home over £13,700. £4,500 more under the Conservatives for the lowest paid. That's the Conservatives caring for the low paid in our society.
Mr. Speaker, they may have changed the name, but the Institute of Fiscal Studies says that child poverty will rise to over 5 million by 2022 at the current rate because of the strategies being followed by her government. When the wealth of the richest 1,000 people in Britain has increased by £50 billion in 1 year, but there's not enough money to properly feed our children or pay workers a decent wage, then we have failed as a society.
No. You're looking for someone to blame and you're saying, oh, well, you've got lots of money and I want it. Because you now need to prop up everyone else. And Perfectly Faded Delusions is quite right. What about making meaningful jobs? Well, it's funny you should mention that, because the best job he can come up with is no job.
Country is seeing the rich get richer while the poor get poorer, while the government is in the pockets of a super rich elite. More children in poverty, more pensioners in poverty, more people struggling to make ends meet. When is she and her government going to reverse the tax giveaways to the super rich and make sure they pay their fair share of taxes so we can end the scandal, and it is a scandal, of inequality in modern Britain?
Yeah, no. The rich pay more taxes now than they did under Labour because Labour introduced the 50p tax rate. When they introduced the 50p tax rate, people moved their money out of the country. More loopholes existed under Labour because they were unwilling and didn't know how to close them down, meaning people were able to avoid paying tax. Considerable amounts of tax. Let's look at a company like Google, for example, who paid fuck all tax under Labour. Finally got them to start paying, not much, but it's a start. And we'll keep getting them until they start paying what we believe to be the correct amount. The fact is, your only solution to fix the supposed burning injustices is for everyone in this country to earn a flat rate. Everyone. Earn a flat rate, because nothing screams progress more than stagnation, economic stagnation. Unless you want to find meaningful incentives that get people to want to do more in their jobs where they know they can't do better than somebody else who isn't qualified to do anything at all. And yes, there's a lot of virtue here, I do apologise.
Well, the right honourable gentleman talks about, in fact, as I pointed out, the top 1% are paying more in income tax today than they ever did under a Labour government. But what have we seen from Labour in just the past week? Labour Party has a plan for a system where everybody in this country would get benefits.
I will now outright state this. This policy Labour wants to introduce where everyone gets benefits. I reject it. I will outright, no joke, I will block them from putting money into my account. I will not accept state handouts. I do not ever want to go back to receiving state handouts. The idea of going, or what it would feel like going back a step, to me, scares me. I work because I like to earn my own money. That's it. Receiving state aid of any kind, to me, is unacceptable for me. Not for others, just me. Therefore, I reject it. I honestly would actually tell my bank to outright reject and block them from putting money into my account because I don't want it. I am self-employed, and that is on YouTube and in real life with contracts I have. My view is the onus is all on me. I fuck up, I lose out. Well, it's been 4 years on YouTube and in real life. So let's go with no, because I'm quite happy doing this. And I pay my own national insurance and taxes, so fuck you, Jeremy.
That means handouts to hedge fund managers, paid for by tax hikes on working people. Labour's policy, money for the rich, paid by taxes on the poor.
Nigel Huddleston!
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As already noted, 40 years ago, Margaret Thatcher became Prime Minister, and during her premiership, she convinced people like me and people from modest backgrounds right across the country that it's the Conservative Party that's the party of opportunity and aspiration. Does the Prime Minister agree that education plays a pivotal role in unlocking these opportunities and enabling social mobility? And will education and skills funding receive the attention it therefore deserves in the upcoming spending round?
Say to my honourable friend, of course, we're already putting record levels of funding into our schools, £43.5 billion. Of course, he's trying to tempt me to talk about the spending review that is upcoming, but I can assure him that we're committed to improving education for every child, because I absolutely, passionately believe that we should be making sure that how far a child goes in life doesn't depend on their background or their circumstances or who their parents are, but it actually depends on their individual talents and their hard work. Everybody in this country should be able to go as far as their talents and their hard work will take them.
Right, before he speaks, Omegon, what do you do as work? What do you work as offline? I am self-employed as a gardener/cleaner. That's it. I got forced into it. It was definitely well worth the 30-odd grand I spent on my master's degree, chemistry, but austerity and a few other unfortunate circumstances killed that particular career. And after 4 years unemployed and very much alone, I got pushed into self-employment. And while I didn't appreciate being pushed, I am quite happy that I've gone that way, because I would not have turned to YouTube as an outlet to improve myself. So I'm going to put this up on the screen now. The Paper Fiddler. Prepare for him. The reams had better be protected.
Ian Blackford!
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I join the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition in welcoming Mental Health Awareness Week?
Oh, excuse me. You know what he's going to ask about, so we're just going to let him do it, because it is so predictable. Hello, Jeff Jones. And that's amazing.
Mr. Speaker, pending your approval, we now know that the Prime Minister's 3 times defeated Brexit deal will return yet again in June.
Yep.
Can the Prime Minister tell us, has a backroom agreement been reached with the Leader of the Opposition to sell out the people of Scotland and force her shoddy deal through?
While I agree her deal is shoddy, it's not a backroom deal. It's very much publicly known they are trying to agree terms, which would include customs union, single market, and employment guarantees with laws that the EU create on that. Hello, Silurian. I do think paper perfect. Yes, it's not betraying Scotland. Scotland is a part of the United Kingdom. Scotland, while voting majority to leave, is a part of the United Kingdom regardless. You are by definition Ramonas. Yes, at least you arrived to the Fiddler, Prospero, and good evening. With Scotland, I do feel sorry for them. They want to stay, fair enough. Sorry. You're gonna have to leave with us with this crappy deal that's being agreed upon. Hello, cable television, and Big Hello. I appear to be unable to English today. Hello, Green Pony. In any case, and to summarise him, you're leaving. Grow the fuck up, pudgy balding man.
Can I say to the right honourable gentleman, the only party that wants to sell out the interests of Scotland are the SNP, and when they're for independence.
Ian Blackford!
Not quite sure, Mr Speaker, what that had to do with the question. You might at least try, Prime Minister, to answer the question.
Touch that paper. Go on, baby.
Scotland
Touch
are
it.
none the wiser of what is going on in these secret Tory Labour talks.
They're not so secret. We've all been hearing what's been coming from these meetings. They are leaked. And they're not so... And another thing, they're trying to agree terms so a majority can be commanded in the House on Theresa May's deal. So, I'm sure it'll be very much public once they've finished. Or are you that dense that you haven't cottoned on? And yes, McDonald did say that. And others have said it's about 95-97% dealt with. So they've got a little way to go yet.
Scotland's people and the will of the Scottish Parliament is being ignored.
No, it's not being ignored. You were listened to. And everyone else said, quiet down, peasant.
Mr Speaker, enough is enough.
Ooh. Fat Hobbit telling us that. Look at you, all powerful. When you go home tonight, you're going to jizz on that ream, aren't you?
Why is the Prime Minister so afraid of giving the people of Scotland their say?
They had their say. It just didn't happen to be enough of them saying anything when it came to the rest of the United Kingdom. You know, when they lost.
The fact is, at the European elections next week...
Oh, Jesus Christ. No one gives a fuck about these.
The people of Scotland will make their voices heard, whether Westminster likes it or not.
Okay, so at best the SNP will win all their seats for MEP spots in the EU Parliament. Okay, that's what, 3 seats maybe? Ooh, Jesus Christ, that's scary shit.
Next Thursday, the people of Scotland can vote SNP to stop Brexit and send a clear message that Scotland will not be ignored anymore.
Okay, couple points. Firstly, no one Fiddler of the paper sparring. Nice. Firstly, no one gives a fuck about the European elections because they shouldn't be happening in the first place because we should be leaving. Okay? We're only doing this as a courtesy because if we don't, we leave without a deal. Although I support the no deal, so fuck it. Second, SNP seats only apply to Scotland. Therefore, you don't get many seats to begin with. Thirdly, if you think your voices are being ignored now, just imagine how badly they'll be ignored in the EU's Parliament, where no one will be able to understand you, even with a translator. Seriously. Right. We are done. By the way, he didn't ask a question, if you noticed. He didn't ask a question. So we are not going to indulge him with an answer. He is unworthy. Therefore, I'm happy to move on. And maybe people are interested in this election. I'm not. I never have been before, and I'm not going to pretend to be. It's a case that we are not meant to be doing this, and we're only doing it because otherwise we crash out without a deal. But as I support no deal, I don't see the point. I know that people are going to be talking about, yes, but I want to see Tommy win a seat, or Dankula win a seat, or Sargon win a seat. I don't care. It's the EU elections. I just don't give a shit. My concerns are only to the United Kingdom, not to the United Federated States of the People's Democratic Republic of Europe. Okay? Right. Anyway, I have to go and do other things. So, thank you all very much for joining me. If you didn't already, please consider slapping either a thumb up or down on this. I appreciate it. I will be streaming tomorrow on the Omegon Plays channel, some Euro Truck. And we'll be back here on Friday with Trups for a political recap. So, yes. So have a lovely evening, and thank you all very much for listening.